Hey there, Saki here from Saki Tech, and in today's video, we will be doing a full and complete comparison of the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus versus the iPhone 7 Plus. Just to put things in perspective, the iPhone 7 was released in September 2016, while the S8 was released in March 2017. So we have a 6-month gap between the two. Apple and Samsung are the most popular smartphone makers in the world, and as such are the biggest rivals. Inevitably, people are asking questions like, is the S8 Plus better than the iPhone 7 Plus, or is the iPhone 7 Plus better than the S8 Plus? And of course, the big question, shall I get the S8 Plus or the iPhone 7 Plus as my next smartphone? In this video, we will do a deep dive into every aspect of these smartphones and deliver a crystal clear answer for the viewer. So let's dive in and start with the build and design. iPhone 7 and the Galaxy S8 are both high-quality smartphones built with premium materials. They do take a different approach to their craftsmanship. The iPhone 7 is a full unibody aluminum build with a sleek and continuous form factor. The Galaxy S8 is crafted out of glass both on the front and rear and surrounded by metal around the edges of the device. So unquestionably, both phones emanate a premium sensation when you hold them in your hands. But the actual design is a different story altogether. The Galaxy S8 looks far superior to the iPhone 7. First and foremost, it retains the signature design element of having dual curved edges, which already produce a magnificent look. And secondly, there's no physical home button on the front, which allows a large and tall display to dominate the front side. It simply looks stunning. The iPhone 7 is not an ugly phone, but it cannot compete with the S8 in terms of beauty. So although both the S8 and iPhone 7 have a rich build quality, the win for the design does go to the S8. As for water resistance, the iPhone 7 Plus has an IP67 grade water resistance, while the S8 has a higher IP68 grade water resistance, again giving the lead to the S8, as you can actually submerge this phone into water up to 1.5 meters for 30 minutes without any water damage. You can literally record videos or take photos underwater if you so desired. As for speakers, the iPhone 7 has 2 stereo speakers that are louder and produce richer sound than the S8's single non-stereo speaker. And of course, another thing that might be important to some but not all is that the S8 retains the 3.5mm headphone jack. Of course, the iPhone 7 ships with a Lightning to 3.5mm adapter just in case. And one more interesting fact, Galaxy S8 supports Bluetooth 5.0, which allows you to connect 2 separate Bluetooth speakers or headphones at the same time to your S8. This might be useful if you wanted to listen to a song on your phone with a friend or a gym partner, while each person uses their own Bluetooth earphones to connect to the same Galaxy S8 smartphone. And of course, I'm sure you can think of many other possibilities. And finally, the camera no longer protrudes from the Galaxy S8, unlike the iPhone 7 Plus, which means the S8 will no longer wobble while it is laying flat on the table, say for example if you are using the calculator app. So in this category, I would have to say that the Galaxy S8 emerges as the winner primarily because of its stunning looks and better water resistance. Let's move on to the processor, memory, and RAM. The iPhone 7 sports a powerful dual-core A10 processor with 3GB of RAM and can be acquired with 32GB of storage, 128GB of storage, or 256GB of storage. The Galaxy S8 also sports a powerful processor, a quad-core Snapdragon 835 CPU with 4GB of RAM. S8 will only be available in a 64GB storage option, but you can easily add up to 256GB of extra storage using a micro SD card, a feature that the iPhone 7 has lacked till the beginning of time. This means that adding extra storage to the S8 is much cheaper. You can get a 128GB micro SD card for around $50 and then just load up on photos, videos, and any other media if desired. Towards the end of this video, we will do a processor and memory benchmark to see which smartphone produces more raw horsepower. But for now, let's move on to the dimensions. So the S8 Plus measures 159.5mm in height, 73.4 millimeters wide and 8.1 millimeters thick. It weighs 173 grams. The iPhone 7 Plus measures 158.2 millimeters in height, 77.9 millimeters wide, and 7.3 millimeters thick. It weighs 188 grams. So there's a slight difference in measurements. For instance, the iPhone 7 is certainly thinner, but the S8 is lighter and so on. Normally, I don't care about dimensions because a few grams of weight difference is nothing. But dimensions have become relevant in the sense that how smartphones use the total surface area. In this case, you clearly get a lot more screen with the S8 than the iPhone 7. Which brings me to the display. Let's talk about it. Both displays are stunning. The technology behind the iPhone 7 and Galaxy S8's displays have received laudatory reviews from experts at DisplayMate. However, the S8 has some clear advantages. Let's look at the specs. The S8, which has just about the same footprint as the iPhone 7 Plus, has a large and tall 6.2 inches display that comes with a resolution of Quad HD Plus with 529 pixels per inches. The screen-to-body ratio is approximately 85%. The iPhone 7 Plus has a 5.5-inch display, comes with full high-definition resolution, and 401 pixels per inches. The screen-to-body ratio is approximately 67%. So the S8 has a larger screen and a sharper display. This may not matter if you're just browsing the web, checking your emails, reading a book, but when you start watching high-definition movies, zooming into photos, and so on, you will see a clear difference in how much more detail you get to see on the S8, delivered with vivid and vibrant colors. And I do have to emphasize that the S8 has a larger screen despite having similar dimensions to the iPhone 7. That is quite a feat to achieve and a great benefit because extra screen real estate is always welcome. One more thing is that the S8 has HDR capabilities. But as of now, I'm not really concerned about it, and neither should you, since there really is a minimum amount of mobile HDR content available. Anyway, let's move on to the software. So let's start with the basics. The Galaxy S8 runs on the latest version of Android, while the iPhone 7 runs on the latest version of iOS. When comparing iOS and Android, it's hard not to overlook two big differences. Customization is number one. So Android's system is a much more open-ended environment and allows for extensive customization via widgets, themes, and home screen tweaking. You can tweak an Android smartphone to fit your personal sense of style. iOS, on the other hand, when it comes to home screens, is just a static grid of app icons with very basic customization capabilities such as being able to change your wallpaper. On the other hand, iOS does offer more polished apps and a greater gaming experience. Just about every game on the iPhone 7, including graphically demanding games, will run at maximum performance with smooth and lag-free gameplay, a feat Galaxy S8 won't be able to match. Additionally, the Apple App Store does yield a large number of quality apps as opposed to the Google Play Store, so if you care about apps and games and how well they perform, this is certainly something to pay very close attention to. Beyond those two differences, S8 is certainly more productive and feature-rich in the software department. It allows for split-screen multitasking, which means you can run two windows side by side at the same time. And of course, the larger display on the S8 certainly enhances the whole multitasking experience. The S8 also has the edge functionality. You can swipe inwards from the edges of the display to bring up the edge panels. These edge panels can give you access to app shortcuts, weather widgets, tools such as a compass or a ruler, a calculator, and much more. On top of that, it is fully customizable, so you can actually add or remove a bunch of panels based on your needs. As a counterattack, the iPhone 7 does have 3D Touch, which is a pressure-sensitive screen that allows you to access quick actions and other gestures by pressing down on the screen with a certain amount of pressure. Now, just like the edge panels, this is not a bad feature, but it is rarely used. As for voice assistants, the S8 comes with Google Assistant and Bixby, while the iPhone 7 offers Siri. Google Assistant all by itself is better than Siri because it is built upon the vast database of Google. It knows very well what you're asking for and delivers precise results quickly, whether you're asking for directions or requesting information on a subject. On top of that, S8 also has Bixby, which makes the voice command package simply superior to just having Siri. So it is clear from everything I mentioned that the Galaxy S8 is more customizable, feature-rich, and productive overall. However, where Apple wins is the app ecosystem. Like I said, the Apple App Store will offer superb gaming experience and provide more polished and quality apps in comparison to the Google Play Store. For app-driven people, this might be important enough to stick with Apple. So now let's move on to the camera. So let's get the numbers out of the way. The S8 sports a 12 megapixel rear-facing camera with an aperture of f1.7. The iPhone 7 Plus is slightly different. It has a dual camera system. It has a regular wide-angle 12 megapixel camera with an aperture of f1.8 and a 12 megapixel telephoto camera with an aperture of f2.8. The primary reason the telephoto lens exists is to give you two things: 2 times optical zoom and the bokeh effect. And of course, both phones have optical image stabilization. So which camera is better? It's hard to say. They both take razor-sharp photos in daytime and have very great low-light performance, meaning you can take photos at nighttime and actually get a clean photo without too much noise. If you are an average consumer, which most people are, you will be satisfied with either one of these cameras, but if you are the type to pay special attention to detail, you will notice that the S8 has a slightly better camera, especially when it comes to low-light photography. Though remember, with the S8 you do not get 2 times optical zoom, which is in fact a good feature to have. What about video? So both phones can record in 4K at 30 frames per second, 1080p at 30 or 60 frames per second, and 720p at 240 frames per second for super slow motion video. These are all great options to have. On the front we have a 7 megapixel camera for the iPhone 7 and an 8 megapixel for the S8 Plus. They both do an amazing job of capturing selfies or video conferencing. So what is the story with the camera? Let me repeat. If you are an average consumer, and most people are, you will be satisfied with either one of these cameras because they take fantastic pictures. The S8 does have a slight edge, but it's not big enough for me to recommend one over the other. These are both world-class smartphone cameras. Now let's move on to the battery. I will tell you right off the bat that the iPhone 7 Plus has a longer battery life after a full charge. It will give you a couple of hours of extra life in comparison to the S8. However, S8 gives you more battery charging options. It has wired fast charging as well as wireless fast charging. As an example, consider this. It takes the iPhone 7 almost 3 hours to fully charge wired, while the S8 is ready to roll within 1.5 hours with fast wired charging. So the iPhone 7 leads in overall battery life, but the S8 gives you more and faster options to recharge. Now let's talk about biometrics and security. In this regard, the Galaxy S8 gives you more choices to unlock your phone than the iPhone 7. It has a fingerprint sensor, an iris scanner, and a facial recognition tool, while the iPhone 7 only has a fingerprint sensor. Now I'm not a fan of the fingerprint sensor placement on the rear of the S8 right next to the camera, because I use it all the time and I really do prefer it in the forefront of a smartphone so that I can unlock the phone even when it is laying flat on the table without having to pick it up. Additionally, fingerprint sensor isn't just used for unlocking our smartphones anymore, but it can be used to purchase apps, use Apple Pay or Samsung Pay, sign into fingerprint-enabled apps, and more. So it is in fact more convenient to have it in the forefront for easier access. But that is a personal choice of mine. As far as actual biometric security options are concerned, the S8 does have a bit of a lead. However, it is wise to mention that the facial recognition is not secure, which makes it a joke, because even a picture of your face can be used to unlock your phone if you were using the facial recognition tool. Therefore, I would say that in terms of usable options that are actually secure, the S8 has an iris scanner and a fingerprint sensor, while the iPhone 7 has a fingerprint sensor. All these sensors work fast and they're accurate. Now let's move on to colors and pricing. The S8 Plus comes in only one version, a 64GB model. and is priced at approximately $850 with 3 color options: black, silver, and gray. In certain markets, you can also get it in gold or blue. The iPhone 7 Plus can be acquired in a 32GB, 128GB, or 256GB model with respective prices of $769, $869, and $969. You can get it in rose gold, gold, white, silver, black, jet black, and red. So you do have more color options with the iPhone 7 Plus. Now let's do a benchmark. Let's launch Geekbench benchmarking tool to see which one of these smartphones produce more raw horsepower. Let's first clear all the background tasks and then we will launch Geekbench. And of course we will fast forward to the end of the test to see what the results are. So I cleared all the tasks and have started Geekbench on both of these phones. And as I said, let's jump to the results so we can observe that both of these phones are quite powerful. The S8 Plus produces more power in multi-core scores, but the single-core performance on the iPhone has a lead. Regardless, they are both in the same ballpark of total power. So let's talk about a conclusion and observe that category after category, the S8 seems to have a lead. It has a sharper Quad HD Plus display, a larger screen than the iPhone 7 despite having similar footprints, a much more impressive design, fancy features such as the iris scanner, more battery charging options, and better water resistance capabilities. It also runs on Android, so you get to customize your phone to your heart's desire. iPhone 7 is a different product. It is a smooth, stable operating system that runs as fluid as a phone can. It has no customization properties, but it has a powerful app ecosystem. Anyone who is hungry for apps and superb games above anything else would be better off with the iPhone 7. But it's come to the point that it's really hard for me to recommend the iPhone 7 over the Galaxy S8. Year after year, I've been saying that choose the one that fits you best by putting special emphasis on the software. But this time, the S8 simply feels like a technological marvel. And so I'm compelled to say that if you really are thinking of making a decision between these two smartphones, Samsung will in fact satisfy your hunger for a more technologically advanced smartphone, which is also capable of virtual reality. So there you have it. Get the S8. The real rival that will have a greater chance to compete with the S8 will most likely be the next iPhone. And that brings us to the end of this video. Well, thank you for watching this video, guys. Make sure to subscribe to Saki Tech and give this video a thumbs up and stay tuned for more smartphone videos just like this. Have a fantastic day.